What's good, YouTube? We're talking college sports in the Deep South, where college football is king, and on the plains of Auburn, the loveliest village on the plains, the battle cry is War Eagle. Kennard Vernon Stewart here on the podcast for today, where it's always great to be an Auburn Tiger. It is a beautiful Saturday morning. What a great day here in the dead period. In between now and the Advocare Classic, that thing is drawing very close. Auburn will be taking on Power 5 Oregon Pac-12 conference team that has a lot of hopes of being a little bit more than just the Pac-12 champions. They have aspirations to make the college football playoff for the first time since 2004. Be making a pit stop to meet with the Auburn Tigers down in Arlington, Texas. I think that's going to be an important game for a lot of reasons. You talk about Texas being a hotbed for recruiting nationwide, especially that Dallas, Fort Worth area. You know, I really think a good showing by both teams can go a long way towards their recruiting efforts, especially in the South, as Auburn, tries to move a little bit further west in their recruiting efforts. Got some guys from Mississippi, also got a couple of guys from Texas along in the last few years. And, of course, Mario Cristobal up in Oregon does not mind making the trips down south to recruit in SEC country. As a matter of fact, they have a guy, I can't think of his name right now, literally recruited this guy out of Lynette, Alabama. And for those of you who geographically know that Lynette, Alabama is literally 20 to 25 minutes from Auburn, depending on where you are coming from. As a matter of fact, back when, we were younger, a lot of the guys from Lynette used to hang out at the Auburn Mall. So, I mean, it's a very, very local deal. And for Mario Cristobal to come down to intercept those type of recruits is absolutely phenomenal. So, big game coming for Auburn and Oregon. Could be some program-changing games, kind of like the Notre Dame and Georgia game from a couple of years ago. Georgia has basically been clicking on all cylinders since then. That's a whole nother video, though. Today, we're going to be talking about the Auburn defensive line. All right. So, Auburn got some real positive things that happened during the offseason with Derrick Brown's return. Derrick Brown, one of the most highly recruited players, let alone defensive tackles in Auburn history. One thing that we do know, or at least I have noted about Derrick Brown, is that I don't believe that overall he has reached his overall potential. Now, I did see during the spring game, once things got ignited for him, he literally took the spring game over and wound up as the spring game MVP, which is huge for Derrick Brown, a good momentum builder. And we do see that he's a leader on this defense now. See, this is Derrick Brown's defense. He's actually been in the shadows of Deshaun Davis, Dontavious Russel, Trey Matthews, Carlton Davis. Now, Carl Lawson. Now, this is absolutely Derrick Brown's defense. He is the leader of this particular defense, because you got to look at it. He's got all brand new linebackers. He has, a secondary that's, pretty good, but they're still kind of feeling their way. Got some switch positions, things of that nature. But that defensive line is where this thing is going to begin and end for the Auburn Tigers. You talk about the return of Marlon Davidson, which is huge as well. Look for a little bit more production out of him as well. Now, here's a caveat to all of the stuff that I'm talking about. I firmly believe that the defensive line can play on an elite level now, because you will have, in my opinion, you will have a lot more athleticism at the linebacker position. At times, the linebackers for Auburn did not play bad. I'm not going to say that these guys were absolutely terrible. But every now and then, speed was an issue, especially on the edge. You look at the Mississippi State game, all they had to do was cave the defensive line down, and the end was wide open. Also, you look at this as well. I believe with Gus Malzahn calling plays, time of possession will be a little bit more in favor for the Auburn Tigers, because you can't play elite Power 5 football with your offense only having about 18 to 22 minutes of time of possession, that's just not long enough. You got to give these guys a break, and you also have to be productive, because those things generate momentum for your defensive team. So, because if you look at the Purdue game, man, how hyped are you going to be when your offense is producing at such a high level, and you can go out there and really, really comfortably play defense instead of you feeling that the outcome of the game is solely on your shoulders? I think that's going to really balance the playing field for the Auburn Tigers. Now, my one concern within the defensive line is who replaces Dontavious Russell. All right, so we're looking at a couple of guys. One guy is Tyrone Truesdale, a former 3-star athlete out of Augusta, Georgia. Had some pretty good moments for the Tigers. 6'3", 325 pounds. A very big guy. I think he can be just as agile as Dontavious Russell, maybe a little bit more. So he's a pretty good candidate for this position. You also look at a guy like Daquan Newkirk, which we saw a lot of last year. He battled some injuries, missed the spring. Matter of fact, he was had a cast on his foot, going into the spring game. So he was unavailable. And then you even look at the prospect of maybe Marlon Davidson getting in there. Not Big Cat Bryant, but a few guys that could actually be very active athletically in the interior defensive line to really make some things happen for the Auburn Tigers. Because I'm telling you, the offensive line, the defensive line is going to be very important as to the outcome of this particular season. You're going into the Oregon game where these guys are absolutely loaded. Got a great running back in C.J. Friedel. Justin Herbert, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the country, will probably be a first-round draft pick at the quarterback position. Dark horse, really, for the Heisman Trophy. I don't think he wins it, but a very dark horse. Also, you got to look at Nick Coe. Nick Coe is arguably one of the most versatile players on the defensive line because he's nasty enough to play interior, but he's quick enough to play the defensive end as well. So that's going to be your dark horse choice as to who the interior lineman is going to be for the Auburn Tigers to replace Dontavious Russell, which is not going to be an easy task. Now, guys, I don't have all the information. You know what I'm saying? It's really we got to get into this, fall camp to see where this thing is going to be headed. But it was just a thought. Who replaces Dontavious Russell? Leave in the comments who you feel is, like, say, your favorite. If you were Gus, or if you were Kevin Steele, defensive line coach, if you had to make the choice, who would be your most comfortable pick for the defensive lineman that would succeed